It's the Murali Daily. The second test between India and England is over. England have been quite comprehensively beaten, which means they go into the third test in Ahmedabad with the series 1-1. This is the Murali Daily. I'm Mark Machado. I'm joined by Owen Blackhurst and Matt Owen. This pod is powered by Sam's Chicken and Lion Beer. If you want to get involved in the conversation, hashtag Uncle Johnson. Lads, I'm going to start by asking, is this the India we were expecting to see all along?
I'll come straight in there. There's a reason India, are such a good team, and the talent depth they have is incredible. And I read someone saying somewhere else that at 1-0 down, they're probably the best team in the world because they come back so hard, and it allows Kohli to be sort of the aggressive, confrontational captain that he's best at. And I think we talked about it before, how in the first test he seemed a little bit placid, but you look at the amount of talent through that team and the players they've left out and other players they could bring in. It's frightening. So in Indian conditions, with fans back in the stadium, I think that's a huge thing as well. The noise they created. I think it's the Indian team we all expected. And I think they're going to only get better from here. So England have got a huge job for how they go and work on their processes to come back for the next test.
Yeah, I expected them to come back really hard. And I think England knew this was going to happen. There's a couple of things that, Rohit's innings was phenomenal. I don't even know who won the man of the match yet, but...
Ashwin got man of the match.
No, that's not right.
Do you think? I actually...
No, I don't think it's right. Because if it wasn't for Rohit, he set the whole thing up. He set the whole thing up. This wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for his... his 160 is massively out of context in the game. 161, and I think he scored it on the first day as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. To do that on day one at the pace he did it on a pitch people are already talking about. It just, you're right. It's completely out of context with the rest of the game, and it set down such a marker for everyone else. And probably he took the game away from England on the first day, and you're always playing catch up from there. And I think we said on day one, if that was an English innings, we'd all still be talking about it in 20 years. Okay. Well, I think they will elsewhere as well, because he was under huge pressure to come in, score like that, put that marker down for his team. Yeah, I'd agree. I understand why Ashwin has got man of the match, but I'd also say Rohit must have run him very close, because it's an incredible knock in difficult conditions.
I think my man crush on Ashwin is well documented across this podcast, so I will say no more about it. But
he had a brilliant. He had a brilliant game. He was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed this Test match. Actually, it was. India played some superb cricket, absolutely brilliant cricket, and Ashwin's ton yesterday was super. Under these circumstances, and let's face it, England's Mowing bowled incredibly well in the second innings, and so did Jack Leach. They're not cat bowlers.
The thing with the spinning all-rounder, I was thinking about this yesterday, is that, we, in the era I grew up, all-rounders had long hair, they bowled seam up, they were often the opening or first change bowler, and they went in at 7 and gave it a whack with a devil-may-care attitude, whether that was Kapil Dev, Imran Khan, both of them. Hadley never had the hair, but he was a genuine all-rounder as well. And the spinning all-rounder is something they never really get put in that pantheon of the great all-rounders, whereas Ashwin's moving into it. He's coming up on 400 test wickets. I'm not sure how many test runs he's got, but he's got 5 or 6 test centuries. So he's going to go down as one of the great all-rounders.
Almost the issue with Ashwin is he's blessed to play in a team which doesn't rely on him to carry the bat as much as as other all-rounders may have needed to in the past. Right. So it's he comes in later on and he's allowed to have either swing at it or, just do what he wants, where maybe if he didn't play with such great batsmen ahead of him, more often he might be asked, firstly, he might have to bat higher up the order. And secondly, he wouldn't have to, just stay at the crease.
That's a sign of a great all-rounder. Botham was a great player because he played a lot of his innings when he was under it, he pulled out match-winning innings, and I think you'll find that. Ashwin's knock yesterday was just terrific, and they were in a decent position, but you still got to go out there and score the runs. And he's a terrific cricketer.
Talking about spinning all-rounders, Murali is if not on a plane back home, he's on the way to the airport to get a plane back home at the moment.
Yeah.
What is going on over there? Like, because to me, I mean, the man's possibly the most unlucky international cricketer in the world at the moment. He flies out to Sri Lanka. This is weeks and weeks and weeks ago. Ends up having to quarantine because he's positive for COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, he had symptoms as well. Eventually, so misses affect that whole tour, those two tests, misses the first test, comes in for this test. I thought he was probably one of England's better performers last few days. And now he's back home. So he's flown out to that part of the world, been there for what, 8 weeks, now 8 weeks, and had 5 days of cricket.
Yeah, the reaction on social, there's been two types of reaction on social media, as we expect. The type of fan who we know will say this is saying that, you know, this is a disgrace, and he's left, and he's choosing to play white ball cricket and then go in an IPL bubble. And then there's the more considered and more correct viewpoint that as a multi-format player, he would have been told at the beginning of the tour that he had a window, and apparently that window was for the 3rd and 4th tests. So I think there's a lot of people going after Joe Root for how it was messaged in the press conference after the game, where he said Moeen's chosen to go home, and that hasn't been the messaging around any other player. So that's difficult. What I would say is, to touch on what you said there, Mark, I don't think any of us can imagine what it's like to go back on tour. You get there and you think, right, I'm going to have another go at Test cricket here. Not only do you sit in your hotel room for 2 weeks, you sit in your hotel room for 2 weeks with an illness that's killing people all over the world. So you've got the anxiety of being on your own, added to the anxiety of being really ill. That's going to take a lot out of you. To then go and, what, as you say, is watch 3 tests. And cricketers, by and large, aren't great watchers. They want to be out there playing. So that sucks your mental reserves. But he hasn't got a test contract. He's been told he's in the one day and T20 team. So, you know, he's going to go back into the IPL auction, and people are going to have a go at him for that. But he's got one career and he's got to make a living. So if he feels he needs to go home and spend some time with his family, like a lot of other players have, before coming back out and doing another 3 or 4 months in a bubble, who is anyone to condemn him for that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, unlike you, I didn't know the ins and outs, but when I read somewhere on Twitter that might be his last game for England, I thought, what's going on here? But I didn't realise the ins and outs of what was occurring. And, you know, it's got to be tough. It's got to be so tough. And on top of that, the fact that he actually tested positive for COVID as well, which has got to be incredibly worrying, as you pointed out. I mean, I think he'll be back. I don't see why he's not included. He hasn't got a contract for Test cricket, though. I mean, I'm not sure about that. I don't know why he hasn't got one. I know that's open to conjecture.
Well, Bairstow hasn't either, though. You know, there's a few of them. They were given
that's true. Yeah.
But some of the central contract stuff's been a little bit weird for a while, hasn't it? Whereas when Joe Denley was occupying the number 3 spot, he only had a 1-day contract, and I suppose it's managing resource in times when revenue's been down as well. But I just think it's if it had been announced, Moeen might have been announced when they announced all the rotations that his window would be the 3rd and 4th test. If it wasn't announced, you'd have to ask why his wasn't announced and everyone else's was, especially if he's been told it in private. Because if he thinks that's his window and he chooses to go home, it's a non-story that has become a story because of a certain grudge held against Moeen Ali by certain people, and also it's not been messaged brilliantly after a test defeat. But I agree. I don't think that's the last time we'll see Moeen play Test cricket for England. He'll be a valuable member of the white ball squads going forward, and you wouldn't back against him going and getting a decent IPL contract and having a decent time there. I think it's a lot more will be made of it than actually what it is. I just hope the messaging of it doesn't affect him. I think that's the main thing for me, that he doesn't feel like he's been treated unfairly when he's just doing what everyone else is doing.
Do you think, because I know we talked about this on yesterday's pod as well, we talked about rotation. Do you think Moeen is a victim of rotation here? Because it seems to me like England had a pretty good formula to beat India the last time round, the first test. They kind of tore it up a little bit to change a lot their bowling attack. And now players are going home. It sounds to us, and obviously we're nowhere near the squad and a million miles away. but it sounds to us like there might be a few issues here with Murali and the fact he's coming home and the way Joe Root's kind of clumsily stumbled upon it in a post-match interview. Do you think rotation, or in some cases, and this is the prime case here, is doing more harm than good, because they're trying to keep about 16 or 17 players happy, and actually it's not keeping many players happy at all, where you're better off just having a smaller. I'm not against rotation. I just think they're rotating too many people.
I think it's unprecedented times, and we can't judge it based on any other time in the past. And also, all three formats of the game are more or as important as each other now because of the revenues they bring. And so it's really difficult. I'm for the rotation because I'm for protecting players' mental health, because we've seen generations of cricketers suffered poorly from being in and out of the squad and never told they're going to be dropped and brought back in for 3 games and then dropped. I think the biggest sadness of all of it is Owen was the top wicket taker and scored the most runs, albeit we didn't score many runs, but he still scored the most of them. And you can say the pressure was off when he went out and had a swing, but he grew into the game. He was taking his wickets at a good average in the second inning. So I think there's a sadness there. I think the more we talk about there being too much rotation, the harder it becomes to change the culture and do it going forward and protect players. It has to be buy-in from fans, media, and everybody alike. You can then argue about individual changes and say, was it right for that test? And is it right in the case of that player who, say James Anderson, for example, who isn't going to play the one-dayers? But if COVID continues, if players continue being away for 250, 300 nights a year, they have to do this. They have to get it right. And you have to support it. Otherwise, it's always going to be going, well, we didn't do that in my day. Do you know what I mean? It just becomes a clusterfuck. So we may as well get behind it, treat it on a case-by-case basis. You can always argue for selection, but I think we probably have to get behind it.
I think I'll get back to the thing about mental health. I think it's very important that because you can look back at certain cricketers who had a really tough time of it, and not everyone is tough as teak. You got a handful of players who are like that, and they're very rare. But everyone is different, and this is a really important thing, especially now. I mean, it's bad enough being stuck in the flat and walking down to Morrison's as my highlight of the day. So it's going to be no fun for these guys. And let's face it, they're athletes, and they want to get out there and play cricket. So that's, for them, this has got to be incredibly tough. So and it's what they do for a living as well. So it's I think you're absolutely right there, and people should hold their horses if they are going to start criticising it, the setup.
We're probably best judging it at the end of the year after there's been an away series, a home series, a white ball series in India, a T20 World Cup, an IPL, and then an Ashes. You're probably best taking stock after that and saying, was it the right thing to do? Are all the players fresh? Is everyone happy in the setup? And are people good to go again? I think that's probably the best time to look at it.
Again,
to be quite honest, sorry.
Oh, no, go on, Matt, go on. This isn't...
Well, let's get things into perspective. I mean, this has been a shitty year for everyone, let's face it. And the fact that we're talking about Test cricket and, should this have been done? And, should we, the fact that, someone's played a fantastic innings which swung it one team's way. I'd rather be talking about this sort of thing, than, it's a brilliant thing that we're talking about sport. And the fact that it's actually taking place is a great thing. And the fact that there's people in the ground, quite a lot of people in the ground watching it and enjoying it is a wonderful thing. And we should be celebrating that. And there has to be a way of managing it as well. So that's a good thing. It's a positive thing.
It's absolutely fantastic to hear the crowd, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I listened to a little bit of it on the radio yesterday in the morning, and hearing the crowd on the radio, just and knowing it's a live crowd and not just piped in, just made, for me, it made such a big difference.
But there's a great noise with cricket, isn't there? And how the noise of the crowd rises and falls with the action.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. And it's one of the differences moving sports very quickly between British football and European football. When you go to European football, the noise level stays at a constant. The ultras are always banging the drums, and you don't really know what's going on the pitch. But you can you can watch an English football match or a British football match with your eyes closed and understand what's going on just by the pitch of the crowd. And it's very, very similar in Test cricket. And, you can hear a pin drop when something's not going India's way. But when it is, the crowd are going, the horns are going, there's people dancing in the stands. Oh, absolutely. What a massive boost for everyone's serotonin, waking up in the morning and seeing fans going bananas. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
How many times? Yeah. I mean, how many times I think it was last summer when they started playing county cricket. And I was, saying, well, it's like before they started playing, I said, well, surely they should, they can play a bit of county cricket with, no one in the ground or just a smattering of people. And how many people came back with the lame joke about, well, no one goes to see county cricket anyway. That'd be the ideal sport. It's like, well, yeah, okay. It was all right after, one or two of those replies were good. But then after the 7,000th gag, it was just getting on my nerves a little bit because, let's face it. I mean, even if you've just got a smattering of people at Old Trafford or whatever, it does make a difference. It's it'll be good to see crowds back this year. I mean, there was a couple of experiments in county grounds last year, wasn't there?
I think so, but that was pre kind of variants and pre-vaccine and stuff like that. I mean, let's see where the UK's at in terms of the virus when county cricket starts, which I think is only like 45 days or something.
It's not very far away, is it?
No, not at all.
There's talk that for the next test, which is, I think, 8 days away now, so there's a bit of a break here for England, and it's a day-night test, that they might allow up to 25% of the capacity into the ground, which I think is about 25,000 people, which is the most amount of people that have been at any sports event that I know of since the pandemic started, right?
I mean, I think in Australia and New Zealand, there's been more.
Oh, yeah. But has there been that many? Because there's only the ground they're playing at in Ahmedabad has a capacity of 110,000 a month.
Yeah, no, you might be right.
Yeah, I think it was about 30,000 at Sydney or something like that for a game.
Oh, was there? I didn't realise there was that many.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a lot, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. What do England need to do? How do they kind of get back into this?
I don't think there'll be any massive overreaction. I think what they need to realise is they need to go away and say, forget the pitch. We were outplayed in the test. We didn't win a session. We had some good individual performances, folks. The spinners did well for two spinners who don't have mystery balls because they weren't brought up to bowl mystery balls or brought up on those pitches. I think so. There won't be a huge overreaction. There'll definitely be changes, but it'll just be hard work. And they're a pretty hard-working group, this England team, and they're a pretty honest group as well. You can tell, they all get on. They've got good coaching set up there. They've got the right people around them. So they'll go away. They'll look at it. It's a completely different thing they're going to go into next. They're away from Chennai, which will be good. Get away from there. Go to a new venue. Go to a new pitch. Think about how the conditions can favour us. Who gets brought back in? Is it going to be a more seam-friendly wicket? If so, Crawley probably comes back in. I would imagine Bairstow will definitely play. You would think if Archer's elbow's all right, he will probably play instead of Stone, although Stone's done nothing wrong and he's been a real plus point. You would imagine they'd rotate that again because you want Jofra in because of his skills with the ball. And Jimmy will come back in. And it'll be a case of reshuffling the batting order. But I think it'll come down to hard work. They trust their process. If they win the toss first, they will go and try and get big runs again. And if they lose it, they're going to have to show they can deal with it in different conditions. But I think it'll be measured, their response.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think if Jeffrey's fit, he'll play. Jimmy's coming back in. I think that was their plan, actually, was, with this day-night game, Jimmy has to play. Jofra was going to play anyway, but he got injured, obviously. And it'll just be interesting to see what the makeup of the attack is apart from that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to go around, it's not go around corners, but it's going to move around a bit more. So hopefully we can stack some runs. We can win the toss first of all and stack some runs up, and then see how they go with the ball.
Well, you also imagine Boomer will come back in. He's had a rest because they probably realised he wasn't going to bowl a lot of overs in this test, so he's had a rest. He's played a lot of cricket over the last year, like they all have, all the multi-format players. So they'll have new things to deal with. But I just think they'll work hard. They're a good group. They'll work hard. They'll see it as a challenge. They know they're building to a big year in all formats, and I think they'll just continue. I mean, but yeah, they can't get into a siege mentality that things are against them. They just have to deal with it as if, right, we've got a big challenge now. They came back hard at us, so we're going to go back hard at them.
Yeah, I think you're right. The siege mentality thing is never a good thing. Never a good thing. And I don't think they have it. I don't think they have that thing. I think they, as you say, they work very hard, and I think they'll just say, okay, it was what it was. We got outplayed. I think I saw a quote by Joe Root, which pretty much admitted that. They know, don't they? They know that they got done. It's like, fair enough. Let's move on.
So sometimes that just happens in cricket, though, right? Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it happened to India on Boxing Day when they go all out for 36, right? And look how they've come back. That just happens, and that's also the reason why we love it, right? That's what the gladiatorial nature of Test cricket is, isn't it? It's
not meant to be easy, is it?
Nah, it's not. It's a test about your own personal mentality and integrity as much as it is about trying to be better than the opposition.
Yeah, and they're doing it. They're doing it in really hard circumstances. I've got nothing, nothing but admiration for groups of blokes who are being flown around the world in and out of bubbles. I don't care that they're staying in nice hotels. We've all travelled for work. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're sat in a room on your own, it's not easy. You can play all the PlayStation in the world. It's not easy. Yes, they get paid well, but I don't want to listen to any of that. They're human beings. They're going away. They're doing what they love, and they're giving it the best shot in what would be difficult circumstances. So I can't wait. I'm going to enjoy a break, and then I'm looking forward to getting up at normal time to sort of watch the test out the corner of my eye while trying to do work, rather than getting up at 3:30 in the morning and walking around like a zombie for 5 days. I'll be honest.
Lads, I think we'll leave it there. Obviously, we're looking forward to catching up on some of the Pakistani Super League that starts this weekend on Sky's Cricket.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll be back for our Murali dailies for the third test. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please do on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram using the hashtag Uncle Johnson, or follow one of our accounts and tweet whatever hot takes you've got on cricket or Murali or whatever it is at that moment. See you later. Bye.